I say, how do you do? This is Terry Thomas here.
Terry Thomas, born Thomas Terry Hoar Stevens on July 10, 1911, was one of Britain's most iconic comic actors, known for his unique blend of charm, wit, and roguish humor. With his distinctive gap-toothed smile and trademark catchphrase, "You're an absolute shower," he became the quintessential upper-class cad on screen. His career spanned radio, television, and film, with standout roles in classic British comedies like Private's Progress, I'm All Right, Jack, and School for Scoundrels. His exaggerated portrayals of aristocratic buffoons and lovable scoundrels made him a household name in the 50s and 60s, both in the UK and internationally. He also found success in Hollywood, appearing in hits like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Despite health challenges later in life, his enduring legacy as a master of comedic timing and character acting remains influential today. But while he was a major comedy star, when the curtains closed, there wasn't much to laugh about. Terry Thomas, The Laughs and the Cries.
Was there any particular film which typecast you almost irrevocably as the upper-class Briton?
I don't know. I just don't know. And the thing is, the class, Carlton Brown was the only upper class character that I've ever played, if one wishes to be pedantic about it. All the others were lower middle class pretending to be upper middle class.
Terry Thomas was the son of Ernest Frederick Stevens, a managing clerk in a butcher's firm, and Ellen Elizabeth Stevens, a housewife. Despite his family's relatively comfortable background, young Terry Thomas faced struggles early on. He developed a love for performance at a young age, but his family, particularly his father, had little interest in fostering this passion. He was educated at Ardingly College in Sussex, where he was introduced to performing through school plays. However, Terry Thomas's early school life was not without challenges. He was shy, often bullied, and did not excel academically. But his humor and quick wit were apparent even in his youth, serving as a defense mechanism to help him deal with the rigid structure of school life and social interactions. Despite his struggles, he persisted in pursuing his love for the stage and performance. After leaving school, he took a few odd jobs before fully committing to show business. He began his career in the 1930s as a professional dancer and cabaret entertainer in London's nightclub scene, working under the name Thomas Terry. His flair for comedy began to shine through, and he slowly developed his signature style, a combination of sharp wit, a lovable buffoon persona, and a distinctive aristocratic air. By the late 1930s, Terry Thomas had gained some recognition, but his career was interrupted by World War II. During the war, he served in the Royal Armed Forces, where he joined ENSA, Entertainment's National Service Association, performing in shows to entertain the troops. This period honed his skills and solidified his reputation as a gifted performer. His natural comedic abilities made him a favorite among the soldiers, and he returned from the war eager to make a mark in entertainment. Terry Thomas's breakthrough came in the post-war era, particularly through radio and television. He first gained widespread attention with the BBC radio show To Town with Terry. The show allowed him to fine-tune his upper-class bumbling cad persona, which would become his trademark in the years to come. His exaggerated portrayal of an aristocratic buffoon, complete with an impeccable sense of comedic timing, a monocle, and his famous gap-toothed smile, quickly endeared him to audiences. By the 1950s, Terry Thomas had transitioned to film, and this is where his career truly took off. His performances in British comedies cemented his status as one of the country's top comedic actors. Terry Thomas starred in a number of British films that became classics in the comedy genre. Some of the most memorable performances include Private's Progress, 1956. Directed by John Bolting, this military comedy starred Terry Thomas as Major Hitchcock, an eccentric army officer. His performance was both witty and sharp, perfectly capturing the absurdities of army life and his character's incompetence, which made him a fan favorite. I'm All Right, Jack in 1959. In this satirical look at post-war British industry and class tensions, Terry Thomas played Major Hitchcock again, reprising his role from Private's Progress. His portrayal of the unscrupulous and sometimes cowardly Major earned critical acclaim, and the film remains a British classic. The film also marked a turning point for Terry Thomas, as it showcased his ability to play a more multidimensional, albeit comedic role. School for Scoundrels, 1960. Perhaps one of Terry Thomas's most famous films, School for Scoundrels saw him portray the ultimate cad, Raymond Delany. This film is a witty, satirical look about how to outsmart life's scoundrels. His performance as the charming but devious Delany, who consistently gets the better of the film's protagonist, made him one of the most recognizable faces of British cinema in the 60s. Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines, 1965. In this slapstick comedy set during a fictional 1910 air race, Terry Thomas played Sir Percy Ware Armitage, a pompous British nobleman. The film was a box office success, and his portrayal of the scheming, aristocratic aviator was a standout. Terry Thomas's comedic genius lay in his ability to play caricatures of British upper-class men with great charm. His characters were often unscrupulous, cowardly, and self-serving, but they were portrayed in such a way that audiences couldn't help but love them. His success in Britain caught the attention of Hollywood, and he made several appearances in American films. One of his most notable roles was in the 1965 film How to Murder Your Wife, in which he starred alongside Jack Lemmon. In the film, Terry Thomas played Charles, Lemmon's valet. The movie is a farcical comedy about a cartoonist, played by Lemmon, who finds himself unwittingly married to a woman he doesn't know how to deal with and fantasizes about killing her in his comic strips. Terry Thomas's performance as the prim and proper valet, who advises Lemmon's character on matters of domesticity and murder, was a hit with American audiences. Despite his success, Terry Thomas's career began to decline in the late 60s and 70s. The shift in comedic tastes, combined with his health issues, made it difficult for him to secure leading roles. In 1971, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a condition that slowly robbed him of his ability to perform. As his condition worsened, he found himself forced to take smaller roles and eventually had to retire from acting altogether. Once known for his flamboyant, larger-than-life performances, Terry Thomas became increasingly withdrawn. His illness left him physically debilitated, and by the 1980s, he was living in relative obscurity, struggling to make ends meet. The film industry, which had once adored him, largely turned its back on him during his final years. Terry Thomas's personal life mirrored the tragedy of his career's decline. His illness and the lack of financial support from the industry left him virtually penniless. He and his wife, Belinda Cunningham, were forced to sell their home in Ibiza to move back to England, where they lived in a modest flat. Terry Thomas's once glamorous life had turned into a daily battle with his disease, and his financial situation became dire. In the late 80s, a benefit concert was organized by friends and colleagues in the entertainment industry to raise funds for his care, but by this time, Terry Thomas was already in poor health. Despite the outpouring of support at the benefit, the industry that had once celebrated him had largely forgotten him. Terry Thomas passed away January 8, 1990, after a long battle with Parkinson's disease. His death marked the end of an era for British comedy, as one of its brightest stars had faded away, neglected and in financial ruin. Though his final years were marred by poverty and illness, Terry Thomas left behind a lasting legacy. He's remembered as a pioneer of British comedy, a master of wit, and an unforgettable presence in film. His portrayals of charming yet unscrupulous scoundrels, his impeccable sense of style, and his unique comedic delivery have secured his place as one of the most beloved figures in British cinematic history. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Terry Thomas is still well known among today's comedy fans, or has his name been washed away? Let us know in the comments section below.